fabulous.
Doing well. How's Florida treating y'all?
Dude, amazing. Amazing. I will
Good.
never I will never take the sun for granted again.
Yeah.
The Midwest in 4 months of eternal gray.
Yeah. No, thank you.
I discovered I like the sunshine.
Oh, me too. Look at my background.
Yep. You always got that background ever since
Yeah.
day. Is there a story behind this background or you just like it?
I just I like it. Like horses. Puts me in a good mood. So figure why.
Can't hit on that. Can't hit on
Yeah.
that.
Just wish it was windy in the back, but
We can get a Photoshopper in there.
yeah.
Collin, let's dive right into it, brother. Everybody on this call knows who you are. You're absolutely freaking ripping. But not everybody knows your story in the beginning. So a lot of people were at Summit. They heard your story, but it's such a good story. It's worth repeating, and a lot of people on here haven't heard it. So talk to us about how long you've been selling insurance, how you got into it, and your journey, your first few months in the business.
So I have been in insurance since I started my like testing and whatnot in November of 2023. I came from the door-to-door industries, was selling pest control door to door. And I mean, I was always like mediocre at the company. Like I knew how to sell, but it was just like not really something I had conviction in or like believed in. And then Justin White, many of you might know, he kind of just told me like, hey, when you're looking to get into a better opportunity after this summer, let me know. And I mean, since then been history.
Yeah, yeah, okay. What attracted you to getting out of the doors and jumping into this?
Well, you said it yourself, the doors. Knocking was miserable. I mean, I feel like it's flashy to say, oh yeah, work for 4 months and then not have to work for that amount of time. But like I just wasn't a fan of the lifestyle that they were living. The like they would just party, go travel and party, drink, do drugs, do whatever you want. And for me, like, yeah, it might be cool for a year to be able to do that, but I want to have like I what really attracted me was the generational wealth that this job can create.
100%, 100%. Okay, and then so what did your first few months look like? Were you crushing off the rip?
No, no. So my first month was I started my first dialing day was November 6th. That whole month I went without a sale and it was absolutely miserable. Um, and I was doing from starting at 5 a.m., no, 6 a.m., and I was working till 8 p.m. every night. A little 15-minute lunch. And then the start of December, I actually had a pretty bad like accident, had to have like a motorcycle crash, had 5 plates, 30 screws put in my forearm, broke 3 bones in my foot, and I was out for like a month. And at that point, like before the accident, I already had about negative $1,000 to my name. And that following month, like after my month long of recovery, it was about 35 to like $4,000. And then January comes, I mean, obviously think the cliche saying new year, new me, like this is going to be my year. This is going to be my month. And I had another month with no sales, doing 300 to 350 dials a day, working the same amount of hours and doing the exact same input, doing my one-on-ones, doing my any type of YouTube training, anything to just like flip the switch. That whole month of January was again no sale. And then yeah, that was probably the lowest I've ever felt, and I've had like Justin White, Malad, and Maka like pull me aside and say, "Hey, like you're getting to this point, like if you don't have a sale by this date, I would consider looking at other options because this might not be for you." And I was so obsessed with seeing the success that others had with this. And I truly just told myself, if I can sell pest control door to door, like I can do anything. And I might have been a little like obsessive with that, but this job seemed way easier. I just had to figure it out. Um, and then the start of February, we had our first the first convention where we were with our previous company and got to see a lot of like just great speakers like David Goggins, Barbara Corcoran, and Jonah Lewis was actually on stage as well. Um, but just seeing like what this job has not only done for like the like families, but their generations to come just made it like, okay, like this, I have to figure this out. Um, and the following week after that convention was the lock-in after the conventions, and I kept that same schedule. At that point, I was probably waking up at like starting dialing at 7 just because of, I mean, trainings late at night. Um, but yeah, just did the same thing, worked till 8 p.m. every night. And up until Saturday, I went 3 months without having a sale. And that first sale happened, it was Saturday, February 8th at 7, it was 7:32 p.m. So it was like towards the very last of the lock-in. And just like, sorry, I'm getting a little emotional. I don't normally do that. But just like it was a his and a hers. It was two policies, and I knew I was finally out of debt. And to me, though, like that didn't matter. It was the words that followed saying that like they would have been homeless. She's been happily retired, been a homemaker, but if something were to happen to her husband and this wasn't set up, that she would have had to learn how to work. Like she would have had to like start a GoFundMe and vice versa with the husband. Like if she were to have passed away, he would have had to, I mean, pick up a second job after getting out of retirement. And just hearing them say like, I'm part of their family, that they took care of them when like with nothing, like no one could do. And that was simply just giving them the call. And that if I ever needed a place to stay, like a warm cooked meal or just like fatherly advice, that they were always a call away. And so that like I've always been one to help and I love helping people, but that security that gave them became the most addicting feeling that, I mean, like I've ever had. And ever since then, I've just simply chased that. And it's been uphill ever since.
Man, what a powerful story. So I've got so many questions for you, but first of all, Colin, what kept you going? Going. You didn't go a few days or a few weeks without a sale. You went a few months without making a sale, and especially with your mentors, the people you're looking up to, getting to the point where they're pulling you aside and saying, "Hey, this might not be for you."
Yeah, make a sale by this date or you're done, basically.
Yeah, what kept you going through all that?
Just knowing like hearing that, I feel like it was like, okay, I'm just going to prove these guys wrong. Right. But for me, like the problems we face on the phones are so minuscule to the obstacles that we've had to overcome in our personal life. And I know every person's story is different, but I'm a firm believer like if you can overcome what you've had to go through growing up, like you can overcome anything. And so to me, I was like, what would that 8-year-old self want me to do right now?
Yeah,
And that was definitely not give up, right? It was, I mean, just keep at it and eventually you'll learn. You'll get to a place where everything's okay. And it might like many say it's like delusional, but I was just like, no, I'm like, there's no other option.
Burn the boats. You got to be all in.
Yeah.
You be all in, and you made that decision. Yep, man. And I relate so much to your story, Colin, because we both struggled in the beginning for longer than we should have, and we both did not see success. And me reflecting back on that, and I'm sure you can relate with this as well. But I'm so thankful that happened because that just made me so much hungrier. And I
And
would,
so much more thankful for the opportunities that are now ahead. Yeah.
yes,
Hey there,
yes.
Veronica. My
And on top of that, what really stood out to me and is a testament to why you grind so hard still and you're able to write $80,000 a month is because you're not purely in this for money. Because if you're just doing this for money and
You're not going to go far.
yeah, you have to care about these families. And I can tell from the way you're communicating that not only do you work extremely hard, but you truly have a heart to help and serve these clients and you truly care. And I think it's so easy for us to get caught up in the day to day of I need to hit my dials or I need to do this or I need to get this ROI on this lead pack or whatever. I mean, all that's important, but you gotta take a step back. These are real families. These are real
And
people.
yeah, and if you have good intentions, then good will follow.
Yep. Yep. And in the insurance industry, we see a lot of people that maybe don't necessarily, not within our group, but you see other agencies, other companies where they don't sell with the best morals. And
Profit over people there.
yep, yep, profit over people. And you know what? Those agents get burnt out and they're not here long term. And if you want to have long term success, you truly have to put the client first and have a heart to help and serve them. And that's most important above all. And so, in Colin, you truly have you've developed a passion. You've developed a passion for this business and for selling and helping clients. So talk to us about that.
I mean, just like I wouldn't even say it's like it's the most addicting thing there is. Right? Like if I mean it's just kind of like if you do good, good will follow, right? And if you have good intentions with that family or I mean just having a good conversation and then good will even follow from that. Right? So my ultimate goal, like I don't look at the job of, oh yeah, I have to get this ROI. I need this amount of leads. I need to sell this amount. Just have like for me, I just have a simple, solid conversation. And one thing I've really felt that's switched that is instead of trying to get 12 12 deals a week or whatnot, I just say I want to have 10 solid conversations a day and having those solid conversations, building the rapport, getting to know someone, it I mean it's the law of large numbers, right? Everything will follow from that.
Absolutely.
So I would say like it's the passion is just I've gotten to meet people I would have never gotten to meet if it weren't for this job. I've gotten pieces of advice like and lifelong things that I'll carry. And so like that's just the most addicting thing is just meeting new people and helping the ones who see your value.
Yeah. Gaining that momentum. That's well said, Colin. That's well said. What does the day-to-day schedule look like for you?
Now,
Yes.
so I mean I like wake up obviously in the morning, I do my little juice shots every morning, have my little yerba mate, go on a little morning walk, listen to some podcasts, whether that be just whether it's Andrew Tate, David Goggins, just like something to get me in that right headspace. And then I just kind of sit with nature. I go to this pond every morning and just sit and just kind of like visualize the day, focus on my breaths, and just envision how I want the day to go. Then after my morning walk, I do my little cold shower, and then I'm on the phones by like 8, or like 9:30. And at that time, I'm normally helping agents who are like new, that are under me and just kind of giving them the attention. And then from 11 to about 6, it's like do not disturb, where that's like my intentional dialing time. And then I take about noon or so, I have a 15-minute lunch and I'm back to it till 7, 6 or 7. If no agents have really reached out needing help or wanting to do some training, then I'll dial till 7:30 or 8.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. So you're definitely grinding, but it's not like you're dialing from 8 to 8.
no.
How many dials are you making a day?
Um, with probably about 70 to 100, I'd say. But I'm doing a lot, like the people I get on the phone, I keep them on the phone.
Yep. How many conversations would you say you're having?
Um, a day,
Yes.
about 10 to 12.
10 to 12. How many
And then
presents?
of that, let's say it's 12 conversations, I'll have anywhere from 8 to 9 presentations on that.
Okay. Nice. So you're working hard, but it's sustainable. And I was having I was talking to an agent this morning, and he had a call with Mindy, and I had a good call with Mindy last week as well. And the way she runs her team is very different from ours. And so, we say one thing I want to set a precedent of on this call is, we say $300 a day, 5 presentations for your first 90 days. But don't get confused. Nobody in 12 hours a day, 8 to 8 should be the schedule, which I'm 100% advocate. Like, you put in that grind, you put in that work.
Full-time savage.
Yeah, full-time savage. But nobody wants to work from 8 to 8 for the rest of life. That sounds terrible. And nobody wants to make $300 per day. And coming into this business, you either have time or you have money. And most people, they don't have money, so they got time. So we start you with those low intent leads. You're gonna have to put in more dials, put in more work to get that same ROI, to get that same return.
Yeah.
But where I see a lot of agents go wrong is they keep that same lead spend. And they keep
Keep the same. You broke up a little bit. What? They keep the what?
they keep that same lead spend, and they're not willing to pour it back into their business. So they stay in the same place they were, and they're not able to level up. The reason that you're having success is you figured out a schedule that works for you and is different for everybody. You're consistent, you stick to that, and you also you invest back in your business. You invest in leads. Like, you're buying high intent leads, you're buying strong point leads. Because I promise you, and anybody on this call, not to call anybody specifically, there's multiple people, but if you're continually spending $200, $300, $400 a week in leads, you're just gonna burn yourself out, and you're not gonna be here long term. It's 4 or 5 year old leads are great to call when you're brand new, and it's great to get
And
reps
broke and don't have money to spend.
and don't have money to spend. But if you run your business like that, dude, that's just terrible, because you're gonna have to put in more dials, you're gonna have to put in more work, you're gonna get more no's, you're gonna get more rejection, you're gonna have a bad week, you're gonna get in your head because you keep getting told to F off all day, and it's just this downward spiral. So one thing that you did really well was you grinded those old leads. You put in the work. You put in the sacrifice. You worked 8 to 8. You made $300 a day. You hit those goals, and then once it clicked, okay, I'm going to pour this back into my business. I'm going to get higher intent leads. I'm going to invest in strong point. I'm going to dial it back a little bit to make sure I'm taking care of myself. A little morning meditation, figure out when I can, like, I'm still putting in the work, but I'm taking care of myself beforehand. I'm making sure I'm good. And so not only are you're taking care of yourself, you're prioritizing yourself, you're reinvesting in your business, but also, Collin, one thing that stands out to me as well is you're intentional with your time. Because there's a difference between dialing and dialing. And some agents, they're in the office for 12 hours, or they claim they're working for 12 hours in front of their computer for 12 hours on Discord, but they're not really working. Like, I would much rather be that person that's intentionally dialing for a solid 6-7 hours, but like it's hardcore all out, like you said, is that's grind time. That's me time. Like I'm focused, I'm dialing, and that was how I worked. And then I'm out. If you're kind of just half-ass dialing, but you claim you're working for 12 hours, again, you're just gonna burn yourself out. And it's not gonna be as intentional as a dedicated, all out, focused 6-7 hours, hit your goal, and then be done. And I think it's very important for everybody on this call where sit down and figure out what your daily goal needs to be and get with your mentor, figure out your inputs, figure out what your production goals are, and then reverse engineer it backwards. So some people want to be top producers. So, some people want to write $500,000 in a year. Okay, perfect. Great. Figure out what your lead spend needs to be and what your daily inputs need to be. And then reverse engineer backwards. Some people, they're like, hey, I just want to make 100 grand a year. That's perfect. Okay, we'll get with your mentor. Again, figure out what your input. I don't necessarily like hours. Like hours are important, but what's more important is figure out your inputs and figure out your lead spend and then reverse engineer backwards. And that's one thing I've noticed about a lot of top producers. Like when they're working, dude, they're working and then they're out instead of just half-ass measly kind of like dabbling, make some dials, chit chat, it's just, again, that's just, I want to be you need to take care of yourself. You need to be focused and you need to be intentional with your time and tracking your inputs. So that's one thing that I want to praise you for, that you do really well. And not only do you work hard, but you also work smart and you're intentional. And intentionality is everything in this business. And so, Collin, what advice would you have for that person right now that they're in that grind phase? They're putting in the work, they're putting in the dials, but they're not seeing success yet. What are some things that you had to change, or what was that aha moment where it all clicked for you? And if you could go back to your present self before it clicked for you, what would you tell your present self?
Get out of the I need to make a sale mindset and having that commission breath and truly knowing like that there's an opportunity to help someone out and get paid. I mean, pretty good, like damn well good to do it. And I feel like the scarcity mindset, if you're like shit, I'm broke, like I don't have money, I'm worried about next week's leads, and that's how your day is going to go. But it comes down to the little stuff, the self-talk, right? So like and still to this day, like self-talk is huge. And when I was negative $3,000-4,000, I would say like things that weren't true, but I knew damn well I wanted to make it happen. I have $10,000 in my bank account right now. I have $100,000 in my bank account right now. I am abundant and everything will come to me. What's meant for me is meant, and I know the good that I have. And that's like that alone, that little self-talk just will change everything.
100%. Well said. You have to believe in yourself, and you have to believe that you're able to before you can achieve it.
Yeah.
If you can't, it's physically impossible.
Yeah.
Whether it's a law of the universe, a God thing, whatever the case may be, but you have to believe that you are worthy to achieve that, because you will forever cool yourself down to the level that you believe you can achieve. So if I only believe I'm $100,000 a year salesman, then I'm never going to be able to exceed above $100,000. And so, like you said, is like you have to visualize, issue paying $80,000 a month in leaderboards, visualize depositing $50,000 into your account, visualize helping 3 to 4 families per day before you can achieve it and bring it into fruition.
Well, and like one thing I would say that's bigger, like than just helping, but knowing where you want to be a year, like 20 years down the road. Where do you want to be there, and work your way back?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because if you just do it for the purpose of doing well with a job, then you'll have no purpose, right? So like, and I've started from when I'm 80, right? Where do I want to be then? What do I got to do now? And how do I have to act now to get to be that person when I pass?
Collin, you know what I always told myself? Whenever I was tired or I didn't want to put in that last bit of effort or whatever the case may be, I'm looking at the Zoom right now. I'm looking at Gage, Skylar, Ben, Connor, Corey, Isaac, you know, Cody, all these guys on this call, Mikey. We're all so young. We're all so young. And what I would continually tell myself is, Jonah, you're never gonna look back 10 years from now and say, fuck, I wish I wouldn't have worked as hard. I wish I would have been more lazy. I
Or
wish
sitting on your yacht. Exactly.
yeah. And I'm never gonna tell myself that. Especially everybody on this, looking at everybody on this call, is the majority of us, this is the most energy we're gonna have. And this is the most free time in our schedule we're gonna have.
And it's the youngest we're ever gonna be.
Youngest we're ever gonna, dude, 95% of us on this call aren't married and don't have kids. And if you do have kids, your kids are young. And I have talked to these people. I've had multiple conversations, and it's really, it breaks my heart. It's so sad, where I've talked to men in their 30s and 40s, and I can feel the emotion in their voice and the regret of, damn, dude, I wasted my 20s. Like, I wasted it. And I wish I would have played my cards differently, because now, not saying it's too late, but it's that much harder to be successful.
Yeah, the pain and regret is so much more.
Yep. 100%. Well, Collin, I think everybody on here wants to hear the sauce. Should we give them the sauce?
Like aged, or
Let's do you're ripping strong. How long have you been ripping strong points for?
in September.
September. So a while.
And can I give a little like on, like you mentioned, like the lead spend?
Yeah.
And it, like, I started getting into strong points in September, and when I first heard of that, I was truly like, $50 for a lead is ridiculous. Here's a $2 lead. I know that there's one person in there that needs this. And so I'm going to use these. So from February to September, I was ripping, yeah, the tier 4s, tier 3s, and I was doing pretty well. And I was having my weekly accountability calls, and Maka was like, okay, where do you want to go? Like, what do you want this next month to look like? And I said, I'm gonna have already written 40 off age. I want to have a 50K month. Well, what do you need to do to get there? I don't know, dial earlier was mine. What I said. He's like, dude, that's how burnout happens. Your point exactly, Jonah. Like, you're gonna be working then 15 hours a day. Like, simply buy your time back. And then I was like, honestly, $3.50 for a 1 to 2 year lead. That's a bit expensive, but I'll try it. And that following week, I had my first, it was a 15K week. And I was like, okay, you might be onto something. Went to those tier 1s. And then I was writing, I was doing like 50K consistently off that. And it was simply just buying your time back, right? The time from a year to, 5-year leads, that's 4 years. Imagine the time that would save you to just buy newer leads. Yeah, the price tag might be scary, but in the end, if you were able to make 50,000, 40,000 in a month, and have to spend 8 hours a day dialing, 8 to 10 hours a day, rather than scraping by, putting all your money into cheap leads, having to dial 12 hours a day to make 40. Like, it's not rocket science. It's, common sense. I'd much rather want to have a lot less, or a lot more higher intent with a lot less dials that just numbers are done. Like, they're cooked. Right. So,
And not only that, Colin, but to capitalize on what you said and to piggyback off of that, there's only so much brain damage that you can take just to be straight up.
yeah.
Like, if I'm like, yes, 5-year leads are phenomenal for brand new agent. I genuinely believe there's no better way to start. Same as knocking doors.
Yeah.
I believe when I always say, when I have kids, how my kids are going to start in sales is they're going to start indoors. because it's the most hardcore form of sales, knocking
Yep.
doors. But nobody wants to knock doors forever, and nobody can because you're just going to burn yourself out. That's why the door-to-door industry, the average rep lasts 6 months, max 24. You can't knock doors forever. Same thing with age leads. You cannot call age leads forever. You cannot make a career out of hammering 5-year-old leads. It's impossible.
And like you almost got like I like to look at this as like the gym, right? Like it takes consistently showing up, putting the right stuff into your body, right? But also like, and by putting the right stuff into your body, I mean self-talk. So like, and let's say supplements, right? Like it's going to be then the leads that you're giving yourself to make yourself better.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And I can tell you guys from experience. I have issue paid 40, 50, 60 grand a month off of age leads and second chance mortgage. And I can tell you for a fact, I worked way harder and I was getting way less sleep, was grinding way more. Like I work hard. I work really, really hard, but the hardest I've worked in the most hardcore days I've had when I was producing $60,000 a month unaged. And it was easier for me and I worked less writing 40, 50, 60 unaged than when I was writing 100,000, issue paying 100, working fresh leads. And so in our leads back in the day where we were buying fresh mailers that were 75, 85 bucks a pop per lead that have gotten resold about 3,000 times. The same leads you are calling. I spent $90 as a fresh lead. Same exact lead. And we all know how many times those get resold. So the fact that you can spend 50 bucks to get a lead that is never resold again, they know exactly what it's for, and then to watch a 3-minute video about it is like, don't get me wrong. Like you're not going to close it. You're definitely not going to close all of them. You're still going to get no's, but you're going to run into the laydowns. You're going to run into those laydowns. So anyway, enough said. Let's just, you want to do one call close? Hear how you do it, hear how you run it.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
And then we're gonna do the aged.
Let's do, if we have time. Let's get into strong point first.
Hey, Collin, really quick. Sorry. I missed it. How much do you spend on leads a week?
Like 4 to a week. About $1,000.
$1,000. Okay.
Jonas
Thank
said I have to up my lead spend, so I'm gonna be doing that.
Got it.
Yeah. Ring.
Alrighty. Hello, Jonah.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Collin. I was getting back to you about that form you had just filled out on Facebook regarding mortgage protection, where you had listed Claudia and Winnie as the beneficiary. I'm assuming you remember that, correct?
Yeah, I was looking to get a quote on that.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so that's actually my job, Jonah. Now, are you familiar with mortgage protection, or is this your first time going through this?
This is our first time.
Okay. So, mortgage protection, Jonah, it's a form of insurance that most homeowners are putting in place. That way, if something were to happen yesterday, and Jonah, I am huge on yesterday because I don't want to speak things into existence here. But if something were to happen, whether that be cancer, heart attack, stroke, or if you were to pass away, then that money, Jonah, would go to your wife, Claudia, and Winnie today to help pay that mortgage off. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Okay. So my job, Jonah, it's pretty simple. I go over a few health and financial questions. From there, Jonah, I run that through all 47 carriers here in Florida that offer mortgage protection. And then you just let me know what's comfortable. And most importantly, Jonah, what's affordable? Then from there, we can submit a request. Does that make sense?
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, perfect. Then do you just want me to go over the sheet or?
Yeah, I want to stop first of all is just how what Ed said, your tempo. You're cool, you're calm, but you also have you also have enthusiasm and charisma behind what you're saying. And I think that's something a lot of people are missing in their presentation because you're talking very slow, but you're not talking robotic. You're not Collin, it's Jonah. Getting you're talking slow, but you can feel the emotion, the charisma behind your voice where you have empathy. You care about what they're saying. And you have enthusiasm as well. And we don't say enthusiasm like a yippity salesy, like, hey, no, it's bottle enthusiasm where you're genuinely you're excited to help and serve them. You care about your job and a certain sense of curiosity about you. So that's perfect. So let's keep going.
So do you just want me to go to like the full inventory?
Do you do anything special in the inventory?
Not really. I mean, like, one thing I do is I build rapport throughout it. So like I'm like looking, I mean, no DUIs, felonies, or misdemeanors in the past 20 years.
We'll just rip through it quick. We'll
Okay. So Jonah, it shows on my end, that your name was spelled Jonah.
Yep, like Jonah in the whale.
Okay, perfect. And what do you do for work?
I'm a fisherman.
Okay. Saltwater or freshwater?
Saltwater.
Okay. What do you like to fish for?
Well, mainly bass. I had a bad experience with a whale one time,
Okay.
so I stick to the smaller fish.
Okay. Well, bass is in the freshwater.
Yeah, work's been a little rough right now.
Okay, okay. And what would you say like your rough monthly income would be?
4,000.
Okay. And I'm sure if they paid you by the amount of fish you caught now, or that'd be a lot more, huh?
Yeah, well, depends on the day.
Okay. Awesome, awesome. And in the past 20 years, Jonah, have you had any surgeries?
Yeah, I had a back surgery a couple years back.
Okay. And I mean, what the other guy look like?
Uh, he looked not as good as I did.
Okay, and you healing up well?
Yeah, I'm healing up well.
Okay, good, good. And is that all in the surgeries?
That's all for the surgeries.
Okay. And do you take any medications?
I do. I take lisinopril.
Okay, and is that just like high blood pressure?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. And no DUIs, felonies, or misdemeanors in the past 20 years?
Nothing I've gotten caught for.
Okay, wait, what mama doesn't know won't hurt her, right?
That's right.
Okay, and then it shows that you are 29 years young.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. And Jonah, do you smoke?
Cigars.
Okay, okay. But you don't like inhale the smoke, obviously?
No, never.
Okay. Well, all I ask is don't ever start that. And then for Claudia, was this something you were looking at just for yourself or also something on her?
Just see what the rates would look like.
Okay. For
Um,
both?
Yeah, I'm the
Okay.
primary owner, but she's working too.
Okay. And how long have you guys been together?
We've been together for 5 years now.
Oh, wow. I actually just put a ring on my fiance last April. Do you have, I mean, any advice to 5 years?
Give without the expectations of receiving.
Okay. Okay. I like that. And you said that she works too?
She does.
Okay. What does she do?
She's a nurse.
Okay. That's the most underpaid profession there is.
Yeah,
And
you got that right.
what would you say her rough monthly income would be?
About 2,200.
Okay. And has she had any like surgeries in the past 20 years?
Nope. She's healthier than I am.
Okay. So I take it then no medications?
No meds.
Okay. And I just got to make sure you guys aren't Bonnie and Clyde. She doesn't have any DUIs, felonies, or misdemeanors either.
Nothing we've gotten caught for.
Okay. And does she smoke?
Nope.
Okay, perfect. And then, how old is Claudia?
She's 30.
30? Okay. Like the older women, huh?
Got me a cougar.
Awesome, awesome. And then I'm just gonna run over a couple medical conditions. And Jonah, just yell at me if any of these do pertain to you, okay?
Okay.
I have heart attack, stroke, TIA, cancer, stents, diabetes. You said you do have high blood pressure, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Now, neuropathy, lupus, asthma,
Nope.
COPD, thyroid, anxiety, depression, kidney, liver disease, or STDs.
Nope.
Okay, perfect. And how much would you say you guys owe on that mortgage, Jonah?
We owe 300.
300? Okay, perfect. And one thing I like to do here is I always look up their like the house on Redfin, because that's going to give not only a lot higher of an estimate, but it makes you sound like the expert.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm like, yeah, I mean, it shows on my end the last time that place was appraised, that was about 750,000. Does that sound right?
Oh wow. It's been a while since we got an appraised. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you've seen eggs recently, right? I mean, those have only gone up.
Yeah. Neighbor's house down the street sold for 720. So it's
Yeah.
over. Yeah.
Okay. Well, congrats on that 450,000 in equity.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. And is that a 15, 20, or a 30-year term?
It's a 30-year.
Okay. And what is the monthly payment on the property?
We pay 1,500.
1,500. Okay. That's a gold mine there. Definitely don't refinance, okay?
we got some low interest rates on that sucker. Got her
Okay.
locked in at 2%.
Wow. Yeah, don't ever refinance then. And lastly, Jonah, do you have any type of life insurance in place?
Yeah, I got life insurance through my work.
Okay. Okay. And is there any reason you went with like a work policy, or is it just because it was included?
It was just included.
Okay. Yeah, and look, those work policies, they're great. However, those are a lot like a company car, right? As long as you work for the company, you'd have access to those keys. However, the second they go and retire is the second they'd be asking for those keys back, right?
No, okay. I
Yeah, so
do have a private policy too.
okay. And who is that through?
State Farm.
Okay. And that's a term policy, I take it?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And what was the face amount on that?
That would be 150.
Okay. And do you know the face amount on that?
It'd be 100,000, I believe.
Okay. And with State Farm, is there any reason you went with like a term?
No, I'm just what my agent recommended.
Okay. And I mean, I totally get why he did recommend that. And term policies, that's how these insurance companies make their money. Because you're going to pay into that policy for X amount of years. And then when it expires, they'll say, hey, we'll cover you. However, it's going to be an extra arm and a leg. Does that make sense, Jonah?
That makes sense. Yeah.
Do you actually have access to Google on your phone?
I do. Yeah.
Okay, so just let me know when you have that up and in front of you.
All right. I got her up.
Okay. Um, and I'm gonna have you look up what percentage of term life policies pay out.
Oh, wow. It looks
Yeah.
like less than 1%.
Exactly. And Jonah, that's how these insurance companies make their money, right? Because I mean, with you paying that $150 a month over the course of a year, that's about $1,800 a year. And is that a 15, 20, or 30-year term?
I have no idea. I'd have to look.
Okay. I mean, looking at a rate like that, I mean, that's probably going to be a 30-year, right? So let's say over the next 30 years, you'd pay about $54,000, Jonah. And there's a 99% chance that you would never see that money. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So we definitely have to look at more of like a permanent type policy. And the policy that my system actually routed me to would be through a carrier known as Mutual of Omaha. Are you familiar with them?
Yeah, I used to watch Animal Kingdom back in the day.
Okay. Back in the good old days, huh?
Good old days.
Yep. So
All the
with,
social media.
yeah. Yep. And with Mutual of Omaha, they're A rated, which means if everyone were to die on their book of business today, then Jonah, they would be able to pay those claims out and still be in business. Does that make sense?
Okay.
That makes sense there?
That makes a lot of sense. Yep.
Okay. And this type of policy would be one that's known as an indexed universal life. Are you familiar with that?
No idea. No.
Okay. So with this type of policy, it would have something known as living benefits. Are you familiar with that, Jonah?
No.
Okay. So with this type of policy, if something were to happen, like cancer, heart attack, stroke, or if you were to become disabled and could not perform two of the six daily tasks, whether that be getting dressed, going to the bathroom, eating, transferring from a bed to a chair, walking, or showering, then this policy, Jonah, what that would do is it would pay out 80%. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So in other words, Jonah, that's what would pay your bills when nothing else could pay the bills. Does that make sense?
Got it.
Okay. Perfect. Do you have any questions there?
Nope. That's all pretty straightforward.
Okay. Now, one other thing about the policy, Jonah, is it would come with cash accumulation. Are you familiar with that?
Is that where you can borrow against it?
Exactly. So this policy, a portion of what you pay into that policy goes to a little savings account. Does that make sense, Jonah?
Okay.
And that savings account would be tethered to the market. So that would be growing about 6 to 8% a year. Does that make sense?
Okay.
And I'm sure you remember 2008, right? The recession.
I do.
Okay. So if 2008 were to ever repeat itself, then the money in that savings account would have something known as a cash lock or a stop loss. So it wouldn't go and lose that value. Does that make sense?
So you're saying if the market tanked, I wouldn't lose any of my money in there?
Exactly.
Okay.
And let's say you ever did need to use that money in that account, whether it be for a family vacation, whether you wanted to get Winnie a new buddy around the house, or my personal favorite, Jonah, if you wanted to go to the casino and put that money all on black, then that money could be used at any time. Does that make sense?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay. And before I do go over these options, Jonah, do you have any questions?
Nope. No questions as far.
Okay, perfect. And give me one sec. The computer's lagging. Sorry about that. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. And Jonah, before I do go over these options, is Claudia in a position to take care of that $300,000 mortgage on top of all her other bills?
Maybe we should She'd probably figure it out.
Okay. And I mean, do you think she would have to like sell the house, or would she have to do like one of those GoFundMe's or like rent a room out?
Uh, she'd either sell the house or get a second job.
Okay. And I'm just assuming then that the good husband you were wanting to make sure that if something did happen to you, that Claudia would be in the best place financially, correct?
Yeah, you could say that.
Okay.
Ooh, that was a good one.
Okay, perfect.
Back me to the corner there.
What was that?
Now, I really like how you handled that.
Okay, what was your account number?
More time for everybody to write down. That's a good tracker.
Yep. Here, I'll just copy and paste the questions I ask.
Even better.
And Jonah, have you thought about what that would look like if, I mean, nothing was set in place?
I mean, she's got her bachelor's degree
Okay.
and she's working part-time now, so she could probably go back to working full-time.
Okay.
First.
Okay. And Jonah, how would that make you feel knowing that we were able to get something in place to make sure Claudia didn't have to sell the house or pick up a second or third job?
That'd be nice.
Okay, perfect. And Jonah, would you agree that some type of coverage is, I mean, better than nothing at all?
I would agree with that.
Okay, perfect. And Jonah, once we do find something comfortable and most importantly affordable, is there anything stopping you to see if we could get you approved today?
Well, as of right now, no.
Okay, perfect. And you still have access then to that piece of paper and the pen?
I do, yes.
Okay. So this first option then, Jonah, what this one would do is it would just pay off that entire 300,000 on that mortgage. And that would just be about $300 a month.
Yeah.
Now, if God forbid something were to happen and you just wanted to make sure that about 3/4 of that mortgage would be paid off, that would just be about $225 a month. And if you just wanted to make sure that about half of that mortgage was paid off, that would just be $150.
Got it.
And don't get me wrong, Jonah, these are all just starting points. But of these options for you, what one would make the most sense, not only for you, but for Claudia as well?
I think the full mortgage would be good.
Okay. And that's not going to force you to eat like ramen noodles or have to recycle bottles for a living?
No, we could probably do that.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get that started on my end. And just confirming your date of birth is this.
Well, we're not making a decision today, are we?
Well, I mean, that's why I do tend to ask, right? Once we do find something comfortable and affordable, right? And with these type of policies, Jonah, right? I mean, it's not like I just put in your name and they approve you, right? So this is something you actually do have to qualify for. Now, just making sure, you were saying that full mortgage, that would make the most sense for you and Claudia.
Well, I mean, I really don't see the point in covering half or a quarter of it. If we're gonna get this, we're really just interested in covering the full thing.
Okay. Yeah, and that's why I said once we find something comfortable and affordable, is there anything stopping you to see if we can get you approved and submitted today? Right? I mean, this shouldn't take too long. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get that started on my end. And I also had to confirm You said your date of birth was August 12th of 1995.
Yep, that'd be correct.
Okay. And then the address was a 123 Winning Way.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. And then I'm into the app.
Boom. Collin handled that like a freaking G. No change. He didn't get defensive. He didn't say, "What do you mean?" He just remained smooth.
Yeah, and then if they're like, well, I don't want to ask, like I wasn't expecting to make a decision today. Well, I mean, like I said, I do ask those questions, and most importantly, that last one, to not only be courteous of both my time as well as yours and the other families I have to help. Right. And they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
You guys, pay attention to how Collin was option closing me the entire time throughout the process and the track words he was using. That was most important, because if he wouldn't have been option closing me throughout, it's going to be a lot harder to get that transition close towards the very end. And so he was continually getting me to buy in throughout the process. So, all right, that's perfect. Well, we don't need to go through the application, but let's get to the very end. Them approved. How you time me down?
So I do that. I got some good news, got some bad news. Good news, you're fully approved. Bad news, you're stuck with me. Then normally you get the laugh. And I'm like, look, and what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to be sending you a text message, and that's going to be coming from my personal cell phone. And that's going to have my first name and my last name, which is Mothersole. All I ask, Jonah, is don't laugh. As well as the reason I'm in your phone. So I'm going to put in parentheses life insurance / mortgage protection. That way, both you and Claudia know if, something does happen, give me a call. Okay.
Got it.
And what I'm also going to be doing, Jonah, is I'm going to send you over that policy number. And in about 10 to 14 business days, you should also be getting that hard copy in the mail. And also make sure to give me a call when you do get that, okay?
Okay.
And what I also do, Jonah, is I give my clients a little security code, because I'm sure you know that the scary world that we live in today, you don't want to give that information to just any random person. Okay. So I'm also going to text you over that security code. And that's going to be Winnie. And then you said you and Claudia met in what year?
We met in 2020.
Okay.
22.
So it's going to be Winnie 2020. Okay. Wait, did you say 2020 or 2022?
2022.
Oh, so it's going to be Winnie 2022. Okay. So if someone calls about life insurance, mortgage protection, or anything along those lines, and they do not have that, that means that they don't work for me, Jonah. So just hang up immediately. Okay.
Uh-oh. Okay.
And yep.
Anything else?
No.
I like how you were obviously talking very slow. You're very clear, but you keep it simple, but you also make it fun. You're not super uptight. You're not super serious. You make jokes here and there, and it always helps if you can make them. If you can make them laugh, it lowers their guard, alleviates a lot of the sales pressure, and it alleviates.
And it if someone's humble enough to make fun of themselves,
yes,
then you see them as, okay, these people are human.
100%, 100%. Well, Collin, this has been phenomenal. We're going over on time, but give us some closing words for the team, brother. Close us out.
A lot, what I've learned is a lot can change in a year. And if I were to have told myself that I'd be in the position I'm at today, I would have said, that's bullshit, but let's ride. I'm in it. And if you had the opportunity to not only change your life, but also start helping family, my family or your family with bills, right? The little stuff, the irrelevant, conversations, the negative people that we have to deal with is not the end all, like the big rock in front of you. It's just a little pebble to ultimately get to those, I mean, the rewarding moments. Right. And I would say, like, if, I mean, you're in the position that I was a year ago, like, if I could do it and I'm not the brightest, and I know that damn well, but like, if I can do it, if a small town boy from South Dakota can do it, like, you, like, it should be irrelevant, but I mean, you can too. And just like seeing the value that this not only has brought to my life, but the impact I've been able to have on other families and helping them. It's, I mean, it just makes sense to just like give it your all, and don't be afraid to like reach out to your mentor. That was my biggest thing. I would reach out 4 or 5 times a day. Reach out to me. Right. I mean, my Instagram's my first name, last name. If you guys like need help, like, I was where you guys are. And if I didn't take that extra step of like reaching out to people who I saw doing well, then I wouldn't be where I'm at. So utilize your resources, utilize Jonah, utilize, I mean, the top people in the company. And I mean, yeah, that's what I have.
Man, that was really well said. And you made a really, really good point that I want to hammer home, where you were struggling and you struggled for a while, but you didn't struggle by yourself. Anytime I have an agent that calls me 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day, I'm like, dude, this guy's going to be a dog. Just so you guys, you're never bothering your upline. You want nothing. It's our full-time job. It is our primary job and our number one focus to see every single one of you on this Zoom call become successful. But the only way that we're able to help you is if you're able to lower your ego and come with humility and accept our help. Like, reach out to us, dude. Call me, call Claudia, call your upline, call whoever. Like, we want to help you, but you got to let us know how we can help you. And that was the same thing with me as a brand new agent. I didn't care. I didn't care to look down. I'm like, hey, I want to win. I don't care about my ego. I don't care about any of this. I put all that to the side, and I was calling my upline 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day. And so you got to be putting, I think a lot of people don't reach out because they know that they're not holding the promises they've made to themselves first, and they're not putting in the work. So if you're not putting in the work, nobody can help you. But as long as you're grinding, it's like, dude, we're here for you every step of the way, and we want nothing more than to see you win. So Collin, thank you for hopping on today. Bro, there was a ton of phenomenal speakers at Summit, and a lot of those speakers are on this call, but I'll be honest, your speech was by far my favorite. And just your work ethic, your level of humility, and just your heart to help and serve people is a direct testament to your success in this business. So super glad to have you on the team. You're a very important part of Pinnacle, and thank you for all this today, brother.
Thank you.
All right, let's make it a good week, guys.
All righty.
God bless.
Bye.